Fox News alert, President-elect Trump will leave Mar-a-Lago any moment and head to Washington at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. He'll have a stop before that. First, he is going to meet with President Biden, the first time they've met since Trump's historic election victory.
That's right. Meanwhile, Trump's incoming cabinet is taking shape by the hour as he appoints some very familiar faces in key roles for his second administration.
And on Capitol Hill, Senate Republicans will hold a vote on the upper chamber's new leadership. Senator Scott Thune and Cornyn all competing for that job.
We have team coverage. Rich Edson is in Washington tracking the Senate, but we're going to begin with Mark Meredith, who's in West Palm Beach on today's Trump-Biden meeting and the Trump transition. Hey, Mark.
Ainsley, Steve, Brian, and Lawrence, good morning, friends. As the president-elect gets ready to head to Washington for a series of high-profile meetings, we are learning new details about who he hopes to serve with him in a second Trump term. And as you guys mentioned, some of these names are familiar and even friends of ours on this morning's show. Overnight, Trump announcing that Pete Hegseth, the best-selling author, the combat veteran, and co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend, will lead the Department of Defense. Trump writing, "Nobody fights harder for the troops, and Pete will be a courageous and patriotic champion of our peace through strength policy." Former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe is heading back to the government. He's Trump's pick for CIA director. He's spoken out frequently about the threat China and Iran pose. He's also accused some in the intelligence community of political misinformation. Trump writing, "Ratcliffe has been a warrior for truth and honesty with the American public. When 51 intelligence officials were lying about Hunter Biden's laptop, there was one, Ratcliffe, telling the truth to the American people." This morning, two of Trump's most high-profile supporters, billionaire businessman Elon Musk and former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, will lead the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Now, this is not something that currently exists, but Trump says it's going to be a way to shrink the size of government. Trump writing overnight, "Together, these two wonderful Americans will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies essential to the Save America movement." Now, what's a little different about this one is this is not a department that I said exists right now, so we're waiting to see how Congress may adapt to it. Is this something that has to be funded, or is this more going to be an informal role? These are questions that will come out a little bit later on throughout the transition. We're also still waiting for a number of other key posts to be filled, including press secretary, and there's been some rumblings that Alina Habba, who was on Trump's legal defense team, may be tapped for that role, but no official announcements at this point. Should be a very busy day for the president-elect. Steve, Ainsley, Brian, and Lawrence, back.
Indeed. All right, Mark, thank you for the report. You can turn around and watch the sun come up down there.
I mean, look at that. How beautiful is that?
It's really pretty. So yesterday, and I'm sure this happened in a lot of American homes yesterday, so I'm looking at Twitter for a moment, or X, because I noticed that Peter Doocy was trending on Twitter, and it turns out because he's being suggested for press secretary. And that's just so funny to me, because it's like, oh, come on. And then I saw this thing. Pete Hegseth has been named the nominee for press secretary, or rather for Secretary of Defense. And I thought, well, is that real? And then it started to, like a gusher, all this news that essentially caught Washington totally off guard. Pete Hegseth, the guy on the couch, is Donald Trump's selection to be the Secretary of Defense.
And we are all, friends with Pete. We've known him for a long time. The military is his world. I mean, that is his mission in life. He was in the Army National Guard infantry. He was an infantry officer. He served tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He was a guard at Gitmo. Mm-hmm. He had two Bronze Stars, combat infantry badge.
And he used to run Concerned Veterans for America as the CEO. Of course, he was 10 years here at the Fox News Channel, has a degree from Princeton and Harvard. So when you look at the former, now the president-elect's thinking, Pete just finished an entire book taking on the military,
right,
the wokeness in the military, what's been going on in the military. Always been a friend of the former president, and he wants someone to go in there that's going to clean it up and focus on the mission, which is to keep Americans safe, not targeting the men and women from the inside, but the people foreign.
And I think he's going to keep Elon Musk and Vivek close, because they got to be cutting. They got to we're going to talk about that. They got to be cutting. They got to make government more efficient. They're going to try the best they can. They're two of the best in the country at doing it. But I also think that I remember when Mattis took over, and everyone's like, well, you know, he's used to fighting wars. How's he going to do it? What you do is you have a great chief of staff or an assistant deputy secretary of defense that knows the ins and outs of it. And what you have in Pete is a guy that goes into, instead of just going into the military, he goes into the infantry like Tom Cotton. So he knows Iraq, he knows Afghanistan. The other thing he knows is Israel. And he's been there like 7, 8 times, done multiple specials there, has a real passion for the region and understanding of the challenges in the West Bank and Gaza, not just on pro-Israel. I understand the region. So I think it's a fascinating pick. And you don't realize how qualified he is until you really look at the resume.
Yeah.
Look at the resume. He tried the Ivy League thing. And then he says, I understand that school. I understand what it's like there. I know what it's like in the Midwest. I grew up there. I know what it's like to have a young family. I'm dealing with a situation right now. I know what it's like to work on a ranch now. So, and then you come in with this military background. I think it's going to be a fascinating pick, and you're not going to be able to outwork him.
Yeah, if you doubt his intelligence on a matter, just anytime we have a foreign conflict, look at him at a map.
Yeah,
and
sure.
He knows all the regions very well,
and he's
sheds
confident,
light.
and he doesn't care. He's like Tom Homan. He doesn't care what anyone
No,
thinks.
he doesn't.
He does not. He's like a cousin to all of us. A great guy. They are expecting it will be a fight, a confirmation fight. There were some veterans groups that lined up against him last time in 2016 when he was suggested for VA secretary. But to your point, Lawrence, the #1 book that's going to be sold today at the Barnes & Noble over in Crystal City by the Pentagon is Pete's book, War on Warriors, where he essentially describes what needs to be dismantled at the Pentagon, because that's probably his blueprint.
He's also got the series
They're
on
shaking
Fox
right now.
Nation.
Yeah.
Pentagon.
How about Elon and Vivek? I mean, 2 very successful businessmen. Elon, you know, PayPal, SpaceX, Tesla, Starlink.
Richest man in the world.
Exactly. Gave all those Starlinks to the people in North Carolina. And so they're tasked with, is to run Doge, right? Is that how you pronounce it, Doge? And he posted
Like
on
the
X.
crypto.
Yes. All actions of the Department of Government Efficiency will be posted online for maximum transparency, basically like where your tax dollars are going and the pork. Anytime the public thinks we are cutting something important or not cutting something wasteful, just let us know. We will also have a leaderboard for most insanely dumb spending of your tax dollars. This will be both extremely tragic and extremely entertaining.
Yeah.
All right, so I would add to this. Everybody talks about, you know, we have $36 trillion in debt, and we're over $1 trillion on the budget that we draw up. We're overdrawn by $700 billion to $1 trillion every year. They go, we'll grow a way out of it. Well, it's going to be hard. Well, let's cut programs. Well, there's a lot of programs like the school lunch program and other programs that really people depend on. So you're going to cut Social Security, you're going to cut Medicare, Medicaid. Then they talk about efficiency. If we could just become leaner as an organization. Well, how do you do that? You take 2 people known for doing that. One ran on just making the government more efficient, and the other one has done it with 7 of the most important companies in the country from scratch.
Right.
He will come in, he'll blow it up. If you don't like him, he's only working for $1 probably, so you could try to fire him. But if you don't want to cut programs, you don't want to cut spending, and you want to have growth, what you got to do is make the government more efficient. This is what's got to happen.
So one of their goals right now, according to some of the what I'm hearing from some of the sources, is to put everything digitally. So, for example, you want to know what's happening at the Department of Energy. You want to know the dollar amount down to the cent. That you'll be able to figure out where every single penny is going from the government. Now, Ohio did the same thing under Josh Mandel when he was over the Treasury. They're trying to do the same thing for the country as well. So with more eyes on where the money is going, they're hoping it'll be easier to cut those programs.
Well, and you know, the whole idea of efficiency is great to run on. It's a little complicated to implement because so many have tried. But, you know, Elon Musk is such a brilliant guy. You know, with all of his things and with Vivek working with him, the only worry that people have is the way that their appointment was announced. And keep in mind, they're not. They do not have to go through a confirmation hearing. Trump said the new department will be advising from the outside of the government. So that suggests that they won't really have any power to make the cuts, but they will be able to advise the White House. And here's the thing, and this is why it's always so effective out on the campaign trail. is, taxes are just a fact of life. We have to pay taxes to the federal government. And we hate it when Washington wastes the money. And essentially what they're going to do, they're going to have a great big spotlight and they're going to say, look at all the money we're wasting right there. Can we do something about that? And then people will go, you know what, if we take money from there, then we can either save the money or spend the money on something else we need.
Vivek has been a staunch supporter of Donald Trump. He also went to Harvard and to Yale. He's really good friends with J.D. Vance. Mike Huckabee is going to be the ambassador to Israel, and John Ratcliffe, who was the former director of national intelligence, and he was a congressman from Texas. Yep. And he has been nominated as CIA head. He was the one who exposed the Russia collusion. He was the one who exposed the FBI's FISA court abuse and Hunter laptop.
So go ahead, Brian.
I would just say this. Radcliffe, a lot of people thought AG. He was going to have a valuable spot. I think he's been playing a pretty good role with Lutnick, Howard Lutnick, in order, because he knows government and Lutnick knows people and his systems and do an evaluation. They were talking about how Lutnick would say on the 5 people that he would give for every position minimum, you touch their picture, and there goes their resume and what he thought their interview was like. So Radcliffe was going to pretty much have the key spot, and he could have done director of national intelligence, but there's a sense that, I did that already.
So I've been working the phones this morning and last night trying to get, because he was on the short list, as you noted, for Attorney General. And apparently one of the pitches that he made to the president is that the CIA is a real mess right now when it comes to the leadership there, and they need to clean it out and get back to what needs to be the central function of the agency. And he didn't want to go to national intelligence, which oversee the CIA, so he settled here. The other name that I'm hearing this morning as well is the next batch of nomination is going to be Attorney General and FBI Director, and I'm hearing Kash Patel. This has not been confirmed. The president has not made a final decision on that, but he wants to clean house there next.
And so I also talked to somebody with the incoming administration. I said, what's going on with Rubio? Is there something wrong? I goes, he's still on track. And they said, absolutely on track. So it just hasn't been named yet.
Right.
And there's a thought
They're doing
that maybe
these in waves.
Maybe there's some people within the Trump team that don't want him. I think
even Fetterman. Fetterman even said he would be a great pick.
He's great. Easily, he couldn't be a better pick.
Right, exactly. But it is curious he hasn't named him yet. So the big thing then, if Rubio becomes Secretary of State, Ron DeSantis would have to essentially appoint somebody to fill his seat. I was talking to a really smart person down in Florida politics yesterday, and the conventional wisdom, and we were talking about this yesterday on the couch, is that Ron DeSantis would appoint a Republican Congress member from Florida, Byron Donalds, Brian Mast, somebody like that. The problem is the House majority is so narrow, they really don't have anywhere to go, and so they got to look elsewhere. There is a possibility, I am told by a really smart person down in Florida, that Ron DeSantis either appoints himself or his wife to the job. And if he appoints himself, his wife could run for governor down there, because he's been a very effective...
Has she expressed that she wants to be
He's been a very effective governor, conservative governor. They love him. I mean, this is just speculation, but it's one of those things he actually could do. But the first boxcar that's got to move is Marco Rubio's got to be named and confirmed first.
Has his wife expressed interest in politics?
I don't know.
She's
very good at it.
The talent is overwhelming. She's fantastic.
Yeah, they're a fantastic family, and they are beloved down in Florida.
He's in Italy right now, so he'll be coming back soon.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News